Hey, this is Max. Welcome to Roughshod Brass. This video is not music related, as you could probably tell from the title. um, this is, most of the videos I'm going to upload in the future, they're all going to be music related, with a handful of exceptions like this. But I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's 10 o'clock at night, 11, and I just this was on my mind for some reason. I want to get it off my mind. So Mandalorian's coming out soon. Less than a month. The trailer's been out for a while. We've all seen it. Well, at least I'm assuming if you're watching this video with this title, you've seen the Mandalorian trailer. Probably the first season as well. So yeah, this is going to be an unedited, unfiltered video. This is just from the heart. This is me talking as me. We're going to have scripted videos in the future that might be more entertaining if you're into that. So if you're expecting something scripted and streamlined and steady and predictable, then turn away now. But subscribe and you'll get those videos in the future. Right. So I like Mandalorian. I do. Is it my favorite show in the world? No. But it's certainly my favorite Star Wars show. That's, but there's not exactly a lot there to compare it to. I'm much more a Star Trek fan than I am a Star Wars fan, but I do love Star Wars. I grew up with it. Naturally, I saw the originals when they first. I saw the originals first, and then I saw the prequels as a child at the time. Right? And I saw the Tartakovsky Clone Wars. And after Episode 3, I came out. I didn't really keep up with Star Wars that much, so I missed Clone Wars, the Filoni one, the movie when it came out, and the show. I didn't pay attention to it at the time. I'd rewatch the Star Wars stuff I'd already seen time and again. And then Force Awakens comes out, and that causes a massive uproar in society. Everyone's looking at it. Everyone's, what's going on? Meanwhile, as a Star Trek fan, seeing as it's an Abrams film, I wasn't all that interested after what he did with Star Trek 2009. But I went and I saw it. Eventually. I thought, okay, so it's episode 4 again. Okay, with a couple minor changes, new questions. I guarantee you, fucking fun. Most of it's probably never going to be answered. I didn't have very high hopes because it's an Abrams movie, so I didn't really have, you can't really expect it to stick any landings if it's an Abrams movie, guys. I mean, have you seen anything that Abrams has put out? It's this goddamn phone. I should put the damn thing on Do Not Disturb, but this does not. Stupid fucking thing. There we go. Right. So, can't trust Abrams. It was an interesting film. Raised questions, so on. Then I saw Last Jedi. I was angry about some of it. I felt the same way most people felt about Luke. I hated the Canto Bight stuff as much as everyone else did. But I kind of enjoyed the parts where it was just Luke teaching Rey. And I actually, compared to Force Awakens and especially Rise of Skywalker, which came after, I felt that there was passion put into this movie. You can disagree with Rian Johnson's creative decisions as much as you like. But the fact of the matter is, he's making creative decisions. And he's proven his worth. You know? You saw Ozymandias in Breaking Bad, that was him. You might have seen Looper, and more recently Knives Out. He's a great director and writer. And most people, myself included, didn't agree with his decisions on Last Jedi, but they respected it. At least I did. I don't know what other people thought. A lot of people just hated him for it. I don't get that kind of hate. He made it clear in the interviews that he's a Star Wars fan, but he's his own Star Wars fan. This was his story that he's sharing. He said you could see him in interviews saying that he felt lucky and privileged to have this opportunity. He has the opportunity that every Star Wars fan wants to tell his story. And he did, as far as I could tell. I mean, yeah, it looked like there was a little bit of studio interference with some of the lines and dialogue. You know. But the central complaint that a lot of people seem to have was Rey is overpowered. Now, this has been done to death on YouTube, so I'm not going to go too much into this. But, yeah, she beat who we thought was the big bad beginning of the last film, and she doesn't appear to have any weaknesses, and she did best Luke, even though he wasn't really trying, but still. Now, I'm not an anime fan. I've seen my share, and I did watch, some of the Cartoon Network stuff growing up when I was young. I saw, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Naruto and stuff. I never really got that into it, but no, it was there, and I was a kid. It was on. I watched it. But I remember a scene in Dragon Ball Z that Last Jedi not reminds me of, but just as a good contrast. If you want a scene of an inexperienced student actually landing a blow on a master, Dragon Ball Z actually does it better than Last Jedi. One of the deuteragonist of the show is an alien warrior from a warrior culture. And he's training his son to be a warrior to beat his father's rival's son. They're training together. And the father tells his son, if you can land a blow on me, one hit, then I'll take you to the theme park. Something to that effect. And he did. The son put everything, all his effort. He landed one blow. And the father, knee-jerk reaction, immediately knocked him to the floor. The point is, he struck that blow, and he proved that he was improving, and he was worthy of being a warrior, and so on and so forth. Contrast with Last Jedi, Rey kicks Luke's ass. Rey is, at this point, been training with a lightsaber for, a month? A month passed between the first two movies, and she bests the definitive Jedi Master, the person who George Lucas said is the most powerful Force user of all time, full stop. I'm nitpicking. But the point is, people kept comparing Rey to Ahsoka. And I had to ask myself, who's Ahsoka? What is this? Where was she in any of Star Wars? Because I used to follow the Expanded Universe material. I had, for my birthday, I got it was the 40th anniversary book. It was whatever decade when I was a kid. It was a big coffee table book with Darth Vader's helmet on the cover. It was an anniversary special book. It had all the Expanded Universe material up to that point. This was obviously pre-Clone Wars. There's no mention. But I read the whole thing. It was all really interesting stuff. The material outside of the movies was, a lot of it was 10 times as interesting as the material in the movies. But in all of that, all of the different characters who popped up in that anniversary book, never was there a mention of an Ahsoka. And I read that book through 4 or 5 times, so I figured. And then I did my research, and I found out there's this guy called Dave Filoni on IMDb. I saw he did some stuff for Nickelodeon. He did Avatar, a show I never watched because by the time Avatar came out, I was in the stage, for whatever reason, I thought, oh, Nickelodeon's for babies. Cartoon Network. Oh, that's the adult cartoons. If you watch stuff on Nickelodeon, you're a little kid, and I'm an adult. I'm going to watch Cartoon Network. So I missed out on Avatar. I still haven't watched it. People never since it got on Netflix, everyone's been raving about it, but so I gave it a look. I watched the movie. That was my introduction. And I thought Ahsoka was insufferable. She wasn't as insufferable as Jar Jar, but she was as insufferable as Episode 1 Anakin. And I'm thinking, people think that this character is better than Rey? Are you kidding me? Mind you, this is before Rise of Skywalker. And then I read, the movie sucked. Everyone agrees the movie sucked, but the TV show, the 2008 series, that's Dave Filoni's redemption story. He redeemed himself with that series and movie, and everyone was going on that. So I watched it, start to finish. And I came to realize most people who watched Clone Wars, they grew up with it over 6 years, right, between the movie and all the shows, and they got an episode every week during the season, so that was their childhood. They grew up with these characters. And so, nostalgia blinds you a lot of the time. I binged Clone Wars. I saw the 5 seasons plus the 6 unaired stuff on Netflix over a little under a month. And I gotta tell you, I don't see Ahsoka the same way that most of the rest of the fandom sees her. I don't. In the beginning, she was, like I said, as insufferable as Episode 1 Anakin. But then, for most of the rest of Clone Wars, she was just as insufferable as Episode 2 Anakin. So do I think she was better than Rey? Okay, yeah, but only because she had many, many seasons of development, whereas Rey at that point had 2 movies. But, I figured I'd give her a shot. I watched Rebels. She was better. I thought she was better in Rebels than she was in Clone Wars, although I thought she absolutely should have died on screen to Vader in Twilight of the Apprentice at the end. But honestly, I thought it would make more sense for a character arc for her to die at the end of Clone Wars. I wish they never went with that stupid microchip implant subplot. I know why they did it. They wanted the clones to be more heroic, to be heroes. Oh, they never betray the Jedi, so on and so forth. I played Battlefront 2 back in the day. I saw, I played through Operation Nightfall. That was, I wish they'd kept that, except maybe with modification, with Ahsoka being part of leading the 501st on their discrete mission back to Coruscant to meet up with Vader, who at that point was Anakin. And then at that point, while Anakin's and the clones are slaughtering through the temple, I would have wanted to see that in Clone Wars, in full. I want to see him killing Shaak Ti, because apparently that's what canon is. I would have wanted to see him, and I wanted especially to see him kill Ahsoka. That would be the perfect conclusion of both of their arcs in Clone Wars. For Ahsoka to die to Anakin at the Jedi Temple, Operation Nightfall. Obviously, I'm in the minority. And that was never going to happen. Because just like Rey is Kathleen Kennedy's golden child, Ahsoka is Dave Filoni's golden child. And nothing that bad is ever going to happen to her. Is she going to get in trouble from time to time? Is she going to be in distress from time to time? Yeah, because 6 seasons of television, you got to do that from once in a while. But I never saw her as being that developed. She was always... There was never any tension with Ahsoka. No more than there is with Rey. Because even when she was in trouble, you knew, you just got this sense she's Filoni's golden child. Nothing's going to happen to her. Nothing irreparable in any way. She's not going to suffer any serious physical or psychological damage. You know, any trouble she gets in is brief. And so I never saw her as that good a character. And then, you know, the rumors started circulating about her and Mandalorian. And then I remember, for some reason, everyone was losing their minds over the recent, well, then recent announcement that Lucasfilm was going forward with the Russian doll director on a new female-centric Star Wars show. Everyone was losing their minds with the political correct... Disney Star Wars is way too politically correct. And I'm just sitting here thinking, guys, it's just the Ahsoka show. I don't know why they're marketing it this way, but come on. It's the Ahsoka show. Now, why they hired the Russian doll director, I don't know. I guess because she has name recognition. And yes, guys, it's just going to be the Ahsoka show. And Dave Filoni is going to have the same position on that show that he has on Mandalorian. I know. It's just, with this ranting about political correctness, I understand if you hate political correctness. I hate political correctness. Most people do. But it's not new to Lucasfilm. It's not like Kennedy just brought it in out of the blue. People say, oh, the 2008 Clone Wars series, there was no political correctness in that. That was pure artistry and storytelling. Political correctness has been in Star Wars since the very beginning, to one degree or another. We can go into that. I'm already at 18 minutes and 11 seconds here. But just look at Clone Wars, for example. That's recent. And that's still when Lucasfilm was its own company, before Disney. Every single hero introduced, except for the clones and the pre-existing characters, every existing hero was a woman. Every last one of them was a woman, except for the pre-existing characters. And every single villain introduced was a man. Except for Bo-Katan, Asajj Ventress, and Mother Talzin. Right? But what happened to those three characters by the time Clone Wars ended? Talzin was aligned with the heroes against Sidious. Ventress helped the heroes from time to time, including Ahsoka. And was against Ventress. And fucking Bo-Katan. God, that was the worst character assassination in the animated version. Bo-Katan was introduced as your typical Katie Sackhoff type. Right? You know, she's been in this sort of thing before. Badass female warrior, takes no shit, does things her own way. Right? That's how she was introduced. Proper Mandalorian warrior. Hell with her pacifistic sister. She is a Mandalorian. This is her way. This is the way it's meant to be. This is the way. And then, the series progresses. She becomes a hero. And if you remember the scene where, Maul takes over and Maul becomes the new Mandalore. The vast majority of the Mandalorians who defect are female. Follow Bo-Katan. And then Bo-Katan, by the time we see her in Rebels, she's telling Sabine, no, we can't use... When they have this weapon that can kill every single stormtrooper on Mandalore without harming any of the native population. You have this weapon that Sabine built. Sabine is one of the... She built this weapon. It was used against the Mandalorians. It was targeted their armor. But she reprogrammed it to target stormtrooper armor. She had this opportunity to kill every single stormtrooper, not only on Mandalore, but you could use this to anyone who's wearing stormtrooper armor anywhere in the galaxy. You could have used this weapon to take down the Empire, or at least remove a substantial amount of its personnel. And Sabine's about to do it. And then Bo-Katan, of all characters, Bo-Katan comes in and says, no, we must be honorable. This is not how we do things. We have to show them in combat. We have to do things the righteous way. This is the same character who burned an innocent village to the ground for no reason whatsoever. Pure meanness. She took off in the skies, burned innocent women and children there's no logical reason for it, but she did it. The same character is now saying, the same person is saying, we cannot use this weapon against stormtroopers. It's wrong. Mind you, the stormtroopers are, most of them are just automatons. They're programmed. They're going to kill you if they can. Terrible aim and all. Talk about a character assassination. Especially if she's supposed to be the new leader of Mandalore. And we see that, this backfires, destroying this weapon, never using it again. Because by the time the Mandalorian happens, Gideon has used a weapon to basically destroy every Mandalorian soldier in the galaxy, except for a handful. It's ridiculous that she didn't. Bo-Katan, a ruthless, cold-blooded warrior, is suddenly this emotional pacifist trying to be more like her sister. Gotta be a pure good, gotta be a lawful good because she's a woman. I mean, yes, I know that was after Disney, but the point is she was already on that path under Filoni's leadership. So, look, I'm not saying that all feminism is bad. I'm not saying that women are inferior or anything. I'm not saying there shouldn't be women heroes. I'm just saying, if you're going to complain about quote-unquote overrepresentation of women under Kennedy's leadership, you cannot ignore it under Lucas's leadership. And I found the female leaders in Lucas's Clone Wars to be just as insufferable, if not more insufferable, than a lot of the female characters in the sequel trilogy. Like Saw Gerrera's sister. I couldn't stand her. They had a really good potential for the dichotomy between them. Gerrera wanted to be more active. Hell with the Republic. These people are ruining my planet. I'm done with diplomacy. I'm taking care of them here and now. While his sister is trying to play the long game, trying to be the diplomat, and the only one who can kind of rein him in and stop him from being too violent. And then her death would be the catalyst for him being who we saw in Rogue One. And that's essentially what happened, but the way they went about it was just unnecessarily politically correct. And, look, if that's what it's going to be, then that's what it's going to be. It's their show, they can do what they want. It's their show, they can do what they want. I'm bothered by people who complain about one, but not the other. Okay? Look, I get it. You all grew up with this. You want to look at it through rose-colored goggles. I didn't grow up with this. I'm looking at this virtual newcomer. Virtual, not complete. But anyway, I went into this video to talk about Mandalorian. So, I liked the first season. I didn't love it. I liked it. It was the best of... I thought it was too derivative of previous Westerns without actually contributing anything to differentiate it that much from the Westerns that it was inspired by. Now, I love Lawrence's show. I love the visual effects of it. I love some of the writing. I can't stand Baby Yoda. I know he's the favorite character for most people. I couldn't stand him. In the Ahsoka show, he makes sense. In this show, he's unwelcome comic relief. An unwelcome story. I wanted the Mandalorian to be a pure anti-hero. I didn't want him to go down a hero's journey or a hero's path. I didn't want him to be your typical good guy. One of the main things that lured me into this was we were going to have an anti-hero. We were going to have a Mandalorian warrior. This was the story about a warrior, the proud culture, and just someone who's strong and is going to do things his own ways, making his own way in this chaotic time. Empire's fallen, the Republic hasn't fully established itself. This is time for people like him, for the moral and gray characters. It would be a departure from previous Star Wars stories. And now I know this is never going to happen, but what I was hoping for was sort of a young Will Money from Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. We only saw Will Money the monster in the last 5 minutes of the film for obvious reasons. But I would have loved to explore more of that character. And if I'm not going to get a Clint Eastwood directed prequel to Unforgiven, a prequel series, which it's never going to happen because of Clint Eastwood's political views. The point of Unforgiven was to distance himself from promoting violence. The whole point of Unforgiven is violence is bad. So he's not going to make a show that's starring a violent character and showing him being violent. Nevertheless, I'd love to see... I mean, that was what he used to do with Sergio Leone. His later years, The point is, I wanted an anti-hero. I wanted someone brutal. I didn't want someone who was going to spare Bill Burr and his crew. I wanted someone who was going to hang that monster guy till he was dead, who was going to slit the throat of the Twi'lek. Who was going to break Bill Burr's neck. So on and so forth. I wanted brutality. I didn't want someone who was, uneasy with killing. I didn't have to. I didn't want someone taking care of a baby. I wanted Mandalorian culture. But I still enjoyed it. It was good. Do I think it would have been better with James Mangold at the helm instead of Jon Favreau? Of course I do. It's just, of course. But, that didn't happen. It's still very good. I like Favreau. I like Filoni. They're obviously very knowledgeable. Not just about making movies and television, but about Star Wars. I mean, you look at the behind-the-scenes stuff with them there. They know what they're doing. These are competent, intelligent men. You know. And then the season 2 rumors started to circulate about Boba Fett coming back. I like that. I wanted to see Boba Fett. They sort of kind of teased him, episode 5. I like that. I wanted to see him, and I wanted to see Boba Fett as an ally to our heroes instead of his traditional role as the villain. Because this is a Mandalorian. I'd like to see them working together on one mission or another. I doubt that's going to happen, though. It'd be nice to see. But then the rumors came about that we were also going to get Ahsoka, played by Rosario Dawson. We were going to get Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff. And we were going to get Sabine, played by WWE star Sasha Banks. And also, going to get some other people by Michael Biehn, and I'm going to botch this name, Timothy Oliphant. I was very opposed to this. Because, I just explained why I don't like Ahsoka and why my need to be Bo-Katan. For me, the only way that this could have worked, if the rumors are true, is if Ahsoka shows up, first episode, explains the Jedi and so on and so forth, takes Baby Yoda, leaves. Bo-Katan gets killed in a flashback by Gideon in single combat, and that's how he claims the Darksaber, by killing Bo-Katan in single combat in a flashback. But of course, it's Filoni, and it's also Kennedy Lucasfilm. Neither of those are going to happen, unfortunately. Ahsoka's probably going to appear in a backdoor pilot. And I hate backdoor pilots. The first backdoor pilot I ever saw was Assignment Earth in Star Trek, the original series. Now, for those of you who don't know what a backdoor pilot is traditionally, although obviously wouldn't be the case for Disney, if a creator of a show wants to pitch a new show, but he doesn't have enough money to create it as an independent pilot, and he wants to try to use an existing audience to build an audience for this, he works the pilot of a new show into a show that it's already successful. So Gene Roddenberry wanted to do a new show with a character called Gary Seven, who went through time fixing world catastrophes and so on, preventing the world from destroying itself, right? And so he, in Star Trek, the original series, had Gary Seven be the star of an episode, and Kirk and crew were really just observers. Naturally, it didn't go over too well, as you'd expect. Pilot failed, show never got made. And most backdoor pilots are like that. They're terrible. The main characters get a backseat, and you really start to shrink. And in the case of Mandalorian, if that's what happens, you're really shrinking down the universe. One of the great things about the first season was you rarely saw a familiar location. Yeah, there were fan servicey moments, but they worked within context. You only saw Tatooine once. Everything else was new, at least new to Star Wars. So I was not happy that we were getting all these legacy characters coming back. But then the Mandalorian trailer dropped. And we saw Sasha Banks as someone who was 99% sure not Sabine. That gave me hope. That gave me hope that all these unverified rumors were just that, rumors. Because they all came from one of two places. They came from Cosmic Book News, or they came from We Got This Covered. And what those two websites do is they find every kind of far-fetched rumor from Reddit and so on and so forth, throw it at the dartboard, and pray that one of the million things they report on turns out to be true. And then when they do find something that happens, aha, look, we have reliable sources. We can do this. This is great. See, you should trust us. When we tell you a rumor, you can believe it. When it's just a needle in a haystack. When they are the ones throwing the hay on the needle. Yeah. And also, I wasn't thrilled with the trailer. It didn't really excite me as much as it could have. The CG was obviously unfinished. I mean, the opening shot of the planet. I mean, oh my god. That was, compared to the effects of the first season, it's like they got their budget cut in half. Looking at that shot. Jeez. I hope they fix it by the time they actually air the damn thing. Just that was a 20-year-old effect. You know, it's not the graphics that matter. You know, the story, it didn't really tell you anything. A couple scenes of Mando doing Mando stuff, some narration from first season. Sasha Banks shows up briefly. Returning characters get, one frame each. And that's basically the trailer. Got some X-Wings, got some action, got the, what do they call them, the Howling Birds, the wrist rockets. It was just nothing to excite you. Now, that being said, I love the trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now you're all probably thinking, that showed literally nothing. That was just the promotional material that we didn't actually see get to the Whedon film, and some of the stuff we actually did see in the Whedon film. Yeah, so yeah, it's similar to the Mando trailer, I guess. Maybe even showed less. But the way it showed it, the alternate scenes that were presented, and the fact that he had Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah playing over it, the original one. It was less a trailer than it was a statement. Zack Snyder is back, and this is his movie. This isn't Whedon's. This isn't some cover. This is the vision of the creator. And by portraying that message, just really got me pumped. The Mandalorian trailer I watched twice. That was enough. I still watch the Snyder Cut trailer from time to time. I do. And every day that I watch it, it reminds me I'm that much closer to seeing it on HBO Max in 2021. You should watch John Campea's analysis of the Snyder Cut trailer. He explains it better than I ever could, because that's his business. That's what he does for a living. Other than Bo-Katan and Ahsoka getting way too much screen time, Mandalorian. Oh yeah, I never really finished my Bo-Katan concern today. My Bo-Katan concern is that she's not going to appear in a flashback. She's going to appear in the present day as an ally of Mando trying to reclaim the Darksaber. And if that happens, that's completely assassinating the character of Moff Gideon. When Gideon was introduced, he was absolute badass. He was going to be a serious villain. Someone to be feared, but not just to be feared, to be respected. This was a military commander who's earned his rank, not through deception, not through scheming, conniving, but through strength and through his talent for survival. This is a man who rose through the ranks of what I think was supposed to be the Empire's version of the KGB. At least that's how it sounded. This was a man to be feared. If Bo-Katan appears alive, even after Gideon purged Mandalore, if Bo-Katan appears alive, but Gideon still has the Darksaber, that means Gideon got it through some underhanded conniving method instead of through warfare and honorable combat, and that takes away from his character. That would really piss me off more than anything else. Even if Ahsoka's in every episode, but she won't be. But even if Ahsoka's in every episode, if Bo-Katan appears in the present instead of a flashback, I'm going to be 100% pissed off. Another thing I'm worried about is what they're going to do to Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune. Star Wars' track record with female leads is not good, even back in the original. It seems to be the first third. Their arc goes in 3 parts. The first part, they're badass, they're clever, they're entertaining, they're everything you want to see in a leading heroine. Proper fighters, kick ass with a smile on your face. Well, they do it. Second appearance. They still have some of that, but there's also a little bit of soapy bullshit involved. Whereas, trying to get romance, trying to soften, get involved with the lead and so on. And then by the third, the character is completely assassinated. It's just some, mostly set decoration. Like with Leia, first movie, total badass. She was young and naive, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But she could hold her own in combat, and she could resist every form of interrogation Tarkin and Vader threw at her. She had a very strong will and a strong mind and a lot of potential as a character. Second movie, and a little bit of that, but also some soapy nonsense of falling in love with Han Solo. And then third movie, the worst act in all of Star Wars, the first act of Return of the Jedi. I hated the first third of that movie. Hated it with a passion. I wasn't fond of the movie at all. But the first act, I actively hated. More than anyone who hates The Last Jedi hates The Last... Okay, that's going a little far. But I would rather watch every Jar Jar scene ever made on a loop for 24 hours straight than watch the first act of Return of the Jedi again. That was that disgusting to me. How low they brought Leia's character. She was a warrior. She was a badass. She was cunning and clever, and she was getting smarter and stronger all the time. And at the end of the last movie, we were hinting that she was going to possibly start some Jedi training with Luke, that she was Force sensitive, and so on. And in the expanded universe, there was some of that between the two movies, where Luke kind of starts to train Leia a little. Expanded universe content. But then, she comes and enters the movie. She starts off strong, right? She killed some bounty hunter, shows up as a bounty hunter, with Chewbacca as a hostage. Goes in, complete badass about it, right? But then, when she goes to rescue Han Solo, she does it in the stupidest way you can imagine, and reveals her identity well before she's in a safe. I'm just saying, could have fixed that sequence, if they didn't make Jabba some disgusting slug thing and made him more of an Andre the Giant type. But, a cross between Vito Corleone. No, a cross between Andre the Giant and Michael Corleone. Right? If that was the Jabba character, some big mob boss. But he wasn't just a mob boss. He could crush skulls with his bare hands, and he was big and brutish. If that's what they went for, that would have been awesome. And maybe the first scene could have been someone who failed in his mission. Right? No. First person to come into the throne room. This is how you open. Screw 3PO and R2. You open it, Jabba's palace. Someone comes in, completed the mission, brought in a bounty. Jabba congratulates him, gives him his gold. Second person is brought in chains. Failed, begging, pleading for his life. Jabba walks up to him slowly. I have no patience for failures. Crushes his skull with his bare hands. Obviously, you didn't want to make an R-rated movie, so wouldn't show that on screen. But you could show it off screen. You could hear it, and you could see some of the reactions from Jabba's guests. Third person is Leia in a costume. Comes in with Chewbacca and says, "I've captured the great Wookiee Chewbacca. He's yours for 20,000. He's yours for 25,000." Jabba then says, "I can go to the spice mines and get a Wookiee with 10 times more serving experience than Chewbacca for 10,000. Why the hell should I pay you 25,000? Leia says, and that's when Leia pulls out the thermal detonator and says, that's when Leia just pulls out the thermal detonator. He doesn't have to say anything. And Jabba laughs and says, I like you. You're bold. All right. I will give you 20,000 for Chewbacca, and not a penny more. I suggest you take the offer. Leia nods, turns off thermal detonator, hands over Chewbacca. Cut to a wide shot of the exterior of the palace during the day, fade to night. Go in, and you see Leia still in her outfit, and frees Han Solo. Han Solo's shocked and disoriented, saying, where am I? Who are you? So on and so forth. Leia doesn't reveal herself. Instead, she says, if you want to live, you'll keep your mouth shut. Puts his hand over her shoulder, starts to walk away. Then Jabba says, I'm afraid it's far too late for that. And then he opens up and he says, look, I paid you promptly, didn't I? I gave you everything you asked for. So, before I have you killed, just tell me, why would you betray me like this? Leia simply says, you should have given me my 25,000. Presses a button embedded somewhere in her armor, and thermal detonators are revealed all over the place. They blow up. Leia takes Han, ducks into cover. Right. Everyone's killed, including Jump, except Boba Fett. And then there's a big firefight, right? Boba's clearly a superior warrior here. Promptly disarms Leia there, and Han. They're not defenseless. But Chewbacca comes. We've heard all sorts of stories about Chewbacca at this point. We see how strong he is. Maybe to illustrate that, he tears his way through several surviving guards who are there, and he just throws them all over the place. Attacks Boba, but Boba, being the badass Mandalorian he is smarter than Chewbacca, and we get a sort of battle that's more equivalent to the modern Thanos versus Hulk, where Hulk is going all in with heavy, wild, brawling, drunk brawler punches, and Thanos is calculated with his blocks and dodges and going for the liver and kidney, like a trained boxer. So we have that sort of thing, and Boba ends up defeating Chewbacca. And as he's about to kill all of them, that's when Luke comes in, yanks Boba's blaster away, pulls out his lightsaber. Boba utters one word, Jedi. Pulls out his own lightsaber. Now, benefit of hindsight, I say he has the dark saber. But, from looking back then, maybe just as whatever kind of color. He does battle with Luke. Boba is the better swordsman. But Luke has the Force. And Luke uses strategy to get Boba into a position, use Boba's apparent hatred of the Jedi against him. Gets him into a position where he falls into a pit, where he's gone for the rest of the movie to reappear in extra material. And then Luke gets Chewie on, Leia out. Lando's waiting with the Falcon outside. They all go on and go off. They'll go on and go off to a rebel ship that's waiting. And that's when Han asks, now that we're free, to Leia, who are you? And then Leia can take off the helmet and reveal herself. To me, that would have been a satisfying first act. Now, the third act definitely could have done without the Ewoks. It could have just been an espionage story, showing, yet again, how cunning and clever Han and Leia are. Could have been a sort of cat-and-mouse sort of thing, and all that. That would have been a lot more entertaining and cheaper to do, probably, than the Ewok nonsense. But we had to have our half-cocked Vietnam metaphor, didn't we? Even though that's not at all what happened in the Vietnam War. At all. I'm not going to go into it at length, but I will say what happened in Vietnam, if you actually look at it from an outside perspective, you actually look at the series of events, is it was a proxy war between America and the Soviet Union. The South Vietnamese and the North Vietnamese had very little in terms of armaments on their own. The North were backed by the Soviets, the South were backed by the Americans. They did battle, so on. And then, Johnson is a fucking moron. But then Nixon comes along, right? Nixon says, okay, let's just set this up like we have in Korea. The North can be a strategic stronghold for the Soviets, the Chinese. South is a strategic stronghold and economic ally of America. That was the deal that Nixon made, right? South would remain democracy, capitalist democracy. North would be communist, right? But then Watergate happened. Nixon and his allies in Congress lost to a bunch of Soviet sympathizers who broke their word to the South Vietnamese and pulled out. The Soviets didn't do that. The Soviets are still backing the Viet Cong. And so the Viet Cong, after the American withdrawal, steamrolled through South Vietnam, killed 250,000 people in concentration camps. You could read the stories about the Vietnamese boatmen. If you don't believe me, just Google that, Vietnamese boatmen. And so instead of Vietnam being like Korea, where the North is, the North, and the South is a first-world industrious nation that gives us some of our greatest technology. Some of the best tech in the world comes out of South Korea. South Vietnam could have been just like that. But because Nixon's replacements broke their word, Soviets steamrolled through, and a genocide occurred. 2 genocides if you include Pol Pot and Khmer Rouge. Go watch the movie The Killing Fields on that, or read the book, whichever you prefer. But I seriously digress. I just really hate Return of the Jedi. But anyway. Yeah, so then we get to Padme. First movie, same thing. She's a badass. Second movie has badass scenes and moments, definitely, but also was a little soapy romance bullshit with Anakin. And then third movie, is that decoration. With Bo-Katan and Rey, it's different. They were introduced as exciting, morally ambiguous characters. Bo-Katan was morally ambiguous and became too much a stereotypical good guy by rebels. And Rey started off as this interesting character from this backwater country, from this backwater world, who was, trained in combat because that's how she survived against people constantly trying to come after her. She probably had a traumatic upbringing. Had to learn to fend for herself. And she doesn't have any, she's quirky. She's her own thing. And then the second movie, she is still a little bit of that, and still curious, so on. And she's still discovering herself, who she is. Which is her goal. She wants to know about her. And then the third movie, she's just Space Jesus. So yes, Ahsoka's the exception. Ahsoka is the only major female character in Star Wars who got better from start to finish. All the others were they got worse with every installment they were in. And I hope that's not the case with Cara Dune. I really do. I really, really like Cara Dune. She's my favorite Star Wars heroine. Period. She's my favorite Star Wars heroine. Period. And I really hope they don't ruin her in Season 2. Anyway, if you're still here, I thank you. I know this has gone pretty far off the rails, hasn't it? And it's 54 minutes long at this point. And it's not. I know this isn't as entertaining as it could be, on the grounds that this is, unscripted, unedited. This is just me being me. And if you like this, great. I'll do more. If you don't, then I'll just stick to scripted content. I'm thinking tomorrow's Wednesday. So yeah, tomorrow or sometime between till the end of the week, I'll probably be releasing Telemann canonic sonatas for 2 horns. I have that sheet music. I've been practicing it. Also on the lineup, I have an explanation about why horns are not French and where the term French horn came from. It's actually German. I also have a horn arrangement of Tchaikovsky's String Quartet, the second movement. Obviously, it's much slower than that, but you get the point. I also have Bluebird's Over. I get a bunch of stuff. I get a lot of sheet music that I've been practicing. I'm gonna upload it at some point. I'm also going to do something with the natural horn. I get 5 crooks for it. I'm going to do the exposition for Mozart Concerto, and I'm going to do it in 5 keys because I have 5 crooks. I'll explain that later. It's going to be fun. I got some good stuff lined up. I'm not gonna guarantee any set release dates for any of them because that's the death knell of any content creator. At least that's my experience, having been on the platform for many, many years. This account obviously is less than a year old, but I have a burner account that I've used for a number of years to write comments and such. And I've seen all sorts of creators from different areas of YouTube, and they try to set dates, especially early on in their YouTube careers. It always backfires. Always gets set back several months, and they end up having to apologize and so on. And my first YouTube account, I suffered from this. This was all back in, must have been 2011, 2012. Had an account called All Things Classical. Never got that popular, but I'm not going to find my Wayback Machine. And on that, I transcribed sheet music onto Finale and played the MIDI versions. So it'd be public domain and so on. Everyone could watch that. And I, copy the sheet music onto the screen and so on. And I tried setting dates, and that didn't work out. And then came the new terms of service. If you're my age, you'll remember. This is when the first ever privacy concerns. Nowadays, this seems like a really old issue. The privacy concerns, we've all known about this for so many years. Back then, this is, the targeted ads and so on, and the selling of personal information was brand new. And so at that point, it's 2011, 2012, something like that. Might have been earlier, actually. I got rid of my YouTube account. I got rid of my Facebook. I got rid of everything. For years, all throughout high school, all throughout college, I had no social media presence whatsoever, except for a burner account that was attached to an email that I never used. I hid my IP using a VPN. At the time I didn't. I just used private browsing, used whatever there was. Now I have a VPN. I used Torrent. That's what I used. But yeah, I'm not gonna make any commitments again. So I'm just gonna end up breaking them because that's what always happens. So I promise I'll release them at some point. I'll release them when I can. And when I do, I hope you enjoy them. My plan is not to only do music, just playing music. I'm also eventually hoping to have a subreddit. Eventually hoping to, to review things more and maybe cook, because that's a hobby of mine, cooking. I know Davey504 people have been asking him to do spaghetti bolognese, which is, I know I don't look Italian. I'm not. I'm Czech. Bolognese sauce is my specialty. I've been improving on the recipe for 10 years. That was given to me by my mother, who had practiced it for 30 years. And she got the recipe from, it wasn't 30 years. She had it for, I don't know how long she had it. The point is, she had it because her ex-boyfriend was Italian, and their ex-boyfriend's mother wanted her to marry him very badly. So for her birthday, she gave him an Italian cookbook. She gave her an Italian cookbook handed down for generations and generations. Traditional, all the traditional recipes you could imagine. Right? My mother improved on that, and I improved on that, and my recipe is damn good. Just about everyone I've given it to says it's the best they ever had. The bolognese sauce is something I'm very proud of. So if Davey does make a spaghetti bolognese video, rest assured, I will make a response. And I promise you, well, I can't promise, 80% sure, no, 90% sure, based on his tiramisu recipe, if you can even call it that, 90% sure my bolognese sauce will be better than his. Because I remember his tiramisu recipe, he committed 3 cardinal sins. He used coffee instead of espresso. He used Hershey's cocoa powder. And he had no alcohol to speak of. Now, there's real cocoa powder that's infinitely better than Hershey's. Hershey's is crap, right? You go to your local Italian deli, they'll have good stuff there, right? And use espresso, not coffee. Definitely espresso, not coffee. And third, traditional tiramisu calls for rum. I prefer Irish cream with sometimes a touch of Grand Marnier. But the fact that Davey didn't use alcohol and he used Hershey's, God. Yeah, that bolognese sauce is going to be better than this. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you're still here, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.